the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your head. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down in Kokomo, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you Bermuda, Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Hey, we wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Way down to Kokomo. We'll put out to sea and we'll perfect our chemistry. By and by we'll defy a little bit of gravity. Afternoon delight, cocktails and moonlit nights. That dreamy look in your eye gives me a tropical contact high. Down in Kokomo, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you Bermuda, Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Hey, we wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Way down to Kokomo. Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you Bermuda, Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Baby, wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Way down to Kokomo. Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you Bermuda, Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Baby, why don't we go?
tonight with a gala discussion and a recording session. Matt and Greg and the fabulous Beach Boys Talk.
Beach Boys, we're talking Beach Boys, 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 Beach. What's up, everybody? What's up, brother Matt? How are you?
Hello. Happy Tuesday. Good to be back with you.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's Tuesday here on Beach Boys Talk. Welcome, everybody. Welcome on in. Welcome to another episode of Beach Boys Talk. We'd like to apologize for last week. The next couple weeks are going to be hit and miss. If the quality's not great, internet issues that hopefully will be resolved in the next few weeks or so. So we'll get that under control. But welcome, everybody, to another episode of Beach Boys Talk. This is a show dedicated, a live stream show happening right now, dedicated to our favorite band in the world, the Beach Boys. Right, brother Matt?
That's right. And we're just brothers who love the band. We are not experts. We're not historians. We're not musicologists.
We are not experts. Yeah, there it is.
We do have one joining us tonight.
We do.
Dr. Jadey Regan teaches at the conservatory in Sydney, Australia. The Doctor of Pop, and she wrote her dissertation on the Beach Boys and their progression from the beginning Surf and Safari all the way to Pet Sounds. And so we're really excited to welcome her tonight. It's going to be an interesting talk. Greg and I don't do a lot of analytical deep dive. We do it every now and then, but but this is going to be, for those of you that like that kind of stuff, it's going to be going on tonight. I got a lot of questions. I'm excited to have her on the show, so it's going to be great.
Yeah, us too. We want to welcome everybody back on the show. All of our really close Beach Boy Talk friends on there, all of our Beach Boy Talkers, the usuals, like Joyce. I see Connie, Whitney, and Stacy, and Joe, and Mom. Hey, Mama. Love you. And, all of our friends out there. So thank you for joining us. I know for some of you, it's very, very early in the morning. And so we're very appreciative of you always joining us every Tuesday. It really does mean a lot. Next week, I think, Matt, we are going to go all summer long, right?
We're going to go back and do all summer long.
We are going to do all summer long for those of you that...
I did a lot of listening to that album to skip it.
We were bummed, to not do that. So,
Gabriele Perugini is in Italy. It's 2 a.m. in Italy, and he's here. So thank you so much.
Pizza and Italian and
we're happy you're here. I've always wanted to go to Italy. My other hobby, other than the Beach Boys, is opera, and that's the truth. And so I love me some Italian opera, very much so. Puccini and Verdi and all them. So
all right, ready, Matt?
There you go. Nessun dorma.
Go ahead, man. Sing it. Ready?
No.
Okay. All right, fine.
But anyway, awesome. And I saw we have some other friends from Australia here. It's really amazing. And Claire, we have people from England here. It's going to be a great night.
Yeah, we're really appreciative of it. So, Oh, is Claire here, by the way? Matt, I have to sing a song. I have to sing 2 songs for Claire.
Claire is here.
Real quick. I gotta do 2 songs that we were going to do. We did like a quick little mini stream where I was taking requests and having fun, just kind of chatting a little bit. And she requested the Vogues, and I'm like, I don't know who the Vogues are. But then I listened to their music, and I'm like, I definitely know who the Vogues are. I just didn't know them by name. Do you know who the Vogues are if I just say the name?
Me? No, I have no idea.
Okay, but you're just like me. I promise. You know exactly this song. In fact, I bet you could probably sing along to it. Ready?
They're the 60s though, aren't they?
60s, yeah. Okay, so this is for Claire.
I think I probably heard of them, but I can't tell you what they sing.
All right, everybody sing along. Ready? This is for Claire Bear all the way in England. Up every morning just to keep a job. I gotta find my way through all the hustle in my
5 o'clock world.
Sounds of the city pounding in my brain while another day goes out the drain. Well, it's a 5 o'clock world and the whistle blows. No one's got a piece of my time. And there's a 5 o'clock of me inside my clothes, thinking that the world looks fine. Yeah, do it, man. Okay, we did that one. And
by the way, you know how I know that song though? I've heard the original now. I didn't know it was the Vogues, but Hal Ketchum, country singer, had a great cover of that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Hal Ketchum. You got to check that one out. Claire, you might like that. Look up Hal Ketchum.
Hal
sing that
Ketchum
song.
is Matt, and you know the only reason I know that song is because we used to like go into church in the morning. It was freezing in the back of Dad's Toyota.
Yeah.
He'd crank up the oldies station. Those songs were always on.
But he cranked up that version of it though. That might be the one that you heard was the Hal Ketchum one. That's what I'm
no,
saying.
no, okay, because I remember this song too. For sure.
I didn't know it was a cover until it happened.
All right, Matt, you're gonna like this one too. You got to sing.
Okay.
You're gonna. All right, this is the other one for Claire that we said we're gonna do. All right. Every time we meet, everything's so sweet. Oh, you're so tender, I must surrender. My love is yours now and forever. You're the one that I long to kiss, baby. You're the one.
We got to get my brother Tim
That's
to
the
do
best
that one, right,
part,
Greg?
baby. Anyway, Claire, we love you. Sorry we didn't know the Vogues. We definitely know the Vogues, but they're not.
Okay,
good,
I do know
Good
the Vogues,
band,
yeah.
good tunes. So anyway, we love you all so much. I see Greg. Hey, Greg, Shady's in the house. Hey, Joe, Capital Joe. Hey, Kent, over on. I like the yodel part. Yeah, yeah, very cool. So welcome everybody. Love you, Claire. Thank you for being here, Matt. We got a lot of news in the Beach Boy world, don't we?
Do. We gotta hit some of it.
We do
today.
Well, let's maybe dig into some of that. Let's maybe start.
Yeah,
You want to start? What do you go ahead? You pick.
Well, first I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, Probin Gregory. Finally getting his due. There's a great article
Great.
in Rolling Stone, and I know a lot of our friends have seen it now on here, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to say congratulations, Probin. He's a nice guy. He was on our show. He's always been nice. Magnificent musician.
He's been kind to us, yeah, for sure.
Talented, and so I wanted to. If you haven't seen that, check that out. I wanted to also give a shout out to another friend of the show, who has been in the news lately with a really big project, and that's our friend, the legendary. He's at the beginning of our show actually, but the legendary Fred Vale. Fred Vale is finally finishing what's now known as Cows in the Pasture. I know the Beach Boy purists will say it wasn't ever called that, but that's what Fred's calling it now.
Yeah.
And Brian Wilson is an executive producer on it and is actually going to sing on one of the tracks with Fred. So Fred's helping that get done through our friend Sam Parker. Sam and Fred were both on the show talking about it a little bit ago.
Yeah.
And I also understand there's going to be a 4-part documentary that's being released as well. About the project when it comes out. So
great.
It's the same thing. Fred deserves all of that.
He does. He said Fred deserves everything.
He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and he's been very kind to us more than he has to be. You know what I mean? And
Matt, I remember not to go down memory lane here, but I remember the first time talking to Fred on the phone. I couldn't believe. I was like, "There's no way he's going to come on the show," and he did.
I know.
And not only has he come on the show, he's been on the show. Maybe like three or four times.
He's been on 3 times.
But I don't want to toot our horn here, Matt. But before any of this, we went down to Nashville and did a show in Nashville with Fred. I think it's season 1 or season 2, where he played us a clip of Cows in the Pasture. So if you go back to that episode, you can actually hear some of it that he let us listen to just for the show. So
and you know what's really funny? Great. The story about that in Rolling Stone, and he told us this too, but they just called him one day, Capitol, and said, "Hey, we have these tapes with your name on them and stuff. You want them?" And that's how we got them.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're excited for Fred.
Yeah, good for Fred.
Well,
we love you, Fred.
Deserving.
Love you, Fred.
And then the last bit of news is a little bit more, sombering. I guess understandable in a way, but since the death of Melinda Wilson, it's come out now that Brian's suffering from dementia. And they're looking to get a conservative. How do you say that word? Conservatorship for him, just to take care of his needs and all that. And Brian's 81, pushing 82, and that happens sometimes as you get older. So I just, we're thinking of Brian. He's given us so much, especially reading that article about Probin in the last, how he kind of rejuvenated his career as a solo artist. Doing something that was never comfortable for him, going out on the road and finally accepting that adulation from fans and all that. So just wish him the best. I hope that works out.
Yeah.
It's got to be really difficult for his family and for him. So I don't know what else to say about it, except it's sad, but
yeah, it is sad. And I don't know what a lot of that means, I don't know who's in control and all that kind of stuff, but Yeah, we're praying for Brian, and hopefully he's got some peace of mind.
He really is the ultimate survivor. You just wonder.
Sure.
He's lost his brothers, parents, wife, and he's still
Brutal.
around. It is brutal, but if anybody can do it, he showed that he bounces back from those things. But wish him the best. So
yeah, sure, Matt.
Not to dim the mood too much, but we wanted to address that. Yeah,
for sure. Well, Matt, why don't we do a little skip, hop, and a jump over to my favorite segment, which is the Many Moods of Matt. I know you got a pretty good one today that we'll probably chat about before we welcome on the Doctor of Pop. Let's get into it.
The Many Moods of Matt.
Well, my mood overall tonight is grateful, and it's grateful to the Beach Boys and the music they've given us, and in particular tonight I'm thinking of Brian Wilson, because today is the anniversary of the world premiere of Brian Wilson Presents Smile, which came out in 2004. An incredible feat for Brian. You watch the documentary made by David Leaf. They talk about the demons that he had. He didn't want to ever think about that music. Had no interest in it, and he kind of got turned around for a myriad of reasons, and was able to put out 2004 Brian Wilson Presents Smile. The first Brian Wilson concert I ever saw was in 2005 when he toured that in the United States, and I'll always remember that as being awesome. And it was seeing Brian for the first time as well, but it also got me to thinking. Smile is brilliant. It's beautiful music. I wore out the CD I had, and then I believe it was 2011 or maybe 2012. This is where the experts will get me. They put out the Smile Sessions, and it was neat to hear all the Smile Sessions. But it also seemed like, looking back on both those things, that something changed in the Beach Boy story. Well, I remember, Greg, when I was in college and you were in high school. I think that's right. Maybe you were in middle school. I don't know, and you were giving me the bootlegs, the Smile bootlegs with this mysterious
allegedly
music. Yeah. And on that 98 box set, or 93 box set, excuse me, they had the Smile snippets on there. And there was something about liking the Beach Boys and how they went from their surf era to Pet Sounds to being uncool, that the coolest thing they ever had was this unfinished album called Smile. Like, what was it? What was it supposed to be like? How is it supposed to go? And so, as happy as I am for Brian, as triumphant as that night was from what I've read and what I've seen, and it was really good for him personally. I wonder if him finishing that and then Capitol actually putting out the Smile Sessions as they did, kind of took a piece of that Beach Boys fandom away, for the lack of a better term. So like Dominic Priori was on here a little bit ago. I don't know if he's still here, but if you are, Dominic, this makes me think a lot about you and how everybody had their own, how they put Smile together with their own pieces, and this was supposed to go here, and this is the way Heroes and Villains was supposed to sound, and all these things. And I feel like what we got in 2004 was Brian and his crew, the version. And again, we'll call it the definitive version because it's Brian Wilson, but that was almost his heavy fan mix of Smile, And so I'm appreciative of all the music. It's amazing music. It's beautiful music, but I hope I'm getting my point across. I just wonder sometimes if still giving us snippets of it, in different, things that the Beach Boys put out and stuff could have kept that going a little bit longer, the mystery of Smile and things like that. And so I'm grateful to have heard all the music, and I'll leave it at that.
The Many Moods of...
You stole my stuff.
What do you mean?
I totally agree. I when Brian Wilson came out with Smile, and we want to know everybody's thoughts on this, but
yeah,
when Brian Wilson came out with Smile, it was great, but I feel like it was such a missed opportunity for the Beach Boy brand, because you kind of nailed it. Is the coolest thing about the Beach Boys, I think, has always been the Smile story. Like, what was it? What happened? Like, that narrative is huge. And I think it really gives the Beach Boys this really, like, mysterious, like, dark, cool part of their history, that I think if I had worked at Capitol, well, of course they know more than we do, but I would have said, hey, let's keep this thing alive. Like, it's the coolest part about the band, instead of putting everything out and being like, well, here it is, I guess it's over now. Because now there's no more mystery. There's no more, like, it's all gone. It's like the Cubs winning the World Series, or, Roadrunner finally getting eaten by the coyote. It's like, well, now what do we do? It's like, that was the one thing that I thought was super cool about the band that you really could have highlighted. I think you could have done more with, but
but then there's the other side of it too, and I'm already seeing some comments in the chat. But now we know what it is, and so we do have it to enjoy now, which is great too,
Yeah.
But like you said, there was always that lore of what it was.
Yes. Yes.
On that box set, and I know they put Cabin Essence out on 2020, and some of those songs were released through the years, but I don't even remember what was on that box set, but I remember whatever was on there. It was so mysterious. You get into the first part of that box set, and you hear the surfing stuff, and then all of a sudden you hear that Smile music and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, I think they could have done so much more with it. They could have, like, I think we've talked about it before, but they could have done like a Build Your Own Smile kind of thing where they give you, you know what I mean? Like, they could, I don't know. I feel like they could have done a lot more with it, not just from a music side, but from a storytelling side of, like, more books, more documentaries. But I love Brian's Smile. I love what he did with it. But it's obviously the original music is pretty mind blowing.
In that article, Probin said something about that was really interesting to me, was that, he wasn't just talking about Smile, but all their music. He said, no matter what we did to try to get that original sound, you just can't do it, because there's something about the brothers, the family singing,
sure,
and that mix, and that's really neat about those original Smile tapes, is you have those voices there,
And you kind of mentioned it too, Matt, earlier, not to steal your thunder, but how he and Darian maybe said that they were kind of putting it together, and then Brian was like kind of the final say. Like, it was actually seemed to be more of a collaborative thing than anything. Yeah. Like you kind of mentioned earlier, Brian wasn't just like, what did you say? You put it perfectly. I can't remember.
He didn't pretty much say, this is where this went, this is where that went, this is
how
it's supposed to be,
I remember everything, how it went. It wasn't that at all. So it's also tough from that perspective. But Matt, I want to keep talking about this, but we can't.
Okay.
Because we have to be joined by an absolute rock star and a doctor of pop. Hello, can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly. Ladies and gentlemen, how about some hearts and love in the chat for Dr. Jadey Regan, lecturer in contemporary music practice at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, University of Sydney, and of course an author, rock star. I mean, everything. You are the doctor of pop. Okay.
Yes.
I gotta ask you our typical questions we ask everybody. By the way, I love your posters in the background you got there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have Smile back there.
Right?
Cool.
Yeah. We'll have to ask you.
And I've got this cute Brian Wilson one too, which I also like too.
I can't see that. It's a little too far.
Oh
but
yeah.
It looks cool.
It's like a screen print. He looks cool.
Yeah, I see that. Well, welcome. We are so grateful for you spending the time. It's like, what time is it in Australia right now?
It is 12:18 p.m. So
okay, not too bad. Okay, not too bad.
And it's Wednesday. That's
Wednesday.
I'm in the future.
You are in the future.
It's all good.
That is wild.
It's wild.
Yeah.
We got to ask you, these are two really dumb questions, but we ask everybody, so bear with us here. But your favorite Beach Boys song, do you have a favorite Beach Boys song?
Oh, you guys.
I know. That's usually the response, so you're right on. Take your time. Take your time.
I think Wouldn't It Be Nice?
Oh, it's a good one.
I think it's Wouldn't It Be Nice?
Yeah.
It uses some of the things I love about their music, but man, my heart hurts.
You know, doctors, I think a lot of times the answer is my answer. A lot of our guests give a song and then they say, well, today, that's how I feel. You know what I mean? But
Oh, I can do that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
You can answer
There
how
are no, there are no rules on the show. That is for sure. But wouldn't it be nice as a
Today,
today?
yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, I love it.
today with the exclamation point. Of
Yes,
course.
I love. Oh, yes, good, nice. You are a true fan. I love it. Favorite Beach Boys album, but let's take Pet Sounds out of it to make it a little bit more exciting. Not that Pet Sounds maybe was, but just in case.
I think it's Today.
Oh,
I think it's Today. Maybe Sunflower.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Today.
Okay, all right. Well, my
That's my
brother's
favorite.
favorite as well. Yeah.
Well, I did have a
Yay.
question for you. In one of the pictures you sent for the ad, you had All Summer Long. I was thinking maybe that was one of your favorites. Are you just like that?
Yeah, and I love the cover of it. It's so cute. All
Yeah,
those
yeah, it is.
little photos. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think also I saw that you guys were thinking about doing a discussion about that, like either last week or in the coming week.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a really overlooked record. I think it's like a linchpin from that early period into like what they would become later in the 60s. So I think it doesn't get enough love also more.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were gonna talk about it last week, but we had some technical difficulties, so we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it next Tuesday. So we're going to talk about
Sounds
it.
good.
And you're totally right. You know, it's kind of like the peak of that sounding period. Like all their, like the way Brian's voice is, like, and the harmonies and the production. It's like that's the peak before they move on to the next, you know, the Today Summer Days kind of thing. You know, so
Yeah.
it's
It's like his playground.
Yeah.
Like he's just experimenting with new ideas on that record.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Doctor? Can you, maybe specifically about how did you become a Beach Boy fan?
Oh, I mean, it's so cute that you refer to me as a doctor. I don't feel like I'm.
Oh, hey.
It's only a PhD. It's not a real.
No, to us it is. So you
a
are an
real one.
expert.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, we've got two doctors in the house. This is very sweet. How did I become a Beach Boys fan? Well, I grew up listening to their music a lot. My dad, in particular, was a really big Beach Boys fan, and so they were just kind of part of my childhood. But there was something about the Beach Boys that really got to me. I vividly remember being, a kid listening to When I Grow Up. To be a man, and just feel like I must have been like 7, 8, listening to this on my little Walkman.
Nice.
And just thinking, oh my God, this is such a beautiful and sad song, but not understanding why it made me feel those things.
Yeah.
Was something about, like, how could I know that, that song about, like, will I love my wife for the rest of my life, or like all of these big questions that adults have. But there was just something in their melodies and in their chords and in the way that they express themselves. Even as a kid, I was like, oh, there's something in here for me. And then I really probably dipped back into it in my teens in a kind of more hardcore way. So they've been part of my life for a really long time. And then I did a degree, my undergraduate degree. I thought I wanted to be a record producer.
Oh, awesome.
So I did so my degree was called a Bachelor of Popular Music. It was at the Queensland Conservatorium, which in Australia it's like up more north than Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved being in the studio, and I loved writing songs, and I loved playing. But like when I got to uni, what I ended up loving was the subjects I had about the history of music and about what music means and like what happens in it that makes us feel stuff. And so I got shot out at a weird angle from my degree in a way. And then I went on and did an honours year where I wrote which kind of like the first thesis I got to write, which was, oh my God, I can't believe this is a thing you can do, but it was on 1990s power pop music.
All right.
So I looked at like Matthew Sweet and like Weezer and Fountains of Wayne and Jellyfish, who obviously also love the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
There's, lots of influence.
Well, Weezer
there.
too. All those bands you just mentioned, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like I got into that because I loved the Beach Boys, and it was like a kind of a modern interpretation from like my own generation. And so then I left uni and did some touring and released some records and all that sort of stuff. But God, I just miss being a straight up nerd at uni.
Yeah.
And so I enrolled in a PhD, and I had a list of topics that I thought I might look at. And I just kept coming back to the Beach Boys. And the reason for that is when I started my PhD, which would have been like 2007, there wasn't a lot written about them academically. Like there was maybe one really influential article, which I'm happy to talk about if you're interested.
Oh, yeah, please.
But there was just a hole in the literature. And I went, oh, maybe that's me. like maybe that's my spot. And so I just kind of dived in. I think I bit off more than I could chew. I think that I was too far into the tunnel to like get out. But man, what a beautiful thing that was. I feel so privileged and have so much gratitude to have spent a bunch of years digging into like one of my very favorite bands. So I guess that's how I came to study the Beach Boys.
And it really is something amazing when I think about what you wrote about, and hopefully we'll get into it. But you know, Surf and Safari, the same band that did Surf and Safari did Wouldn't It Be Nice or God Only Knows, you know, and it
like
really
5
is.
years.
Yeah, in 5 years,
a short period of time.
Bonkers, right?
It really is incredible. And you kind of talked about how you became a fan, but why the Beach Boys, you know, among other bands? Like, what makes them unique to you? I'm assuming maybe you think they're special or unique. So what is it about them?
That's just a good question. Look, I think it's the vocal harmonies and I think it's the chords. I know this is going to sound a bit nerdy to actually like a band because of their chords.
Yeah.
But I'm a piano player and there's something so beautiful in the way that the Beach Boys used chords for emotional effect, you know? And so as a piano player, there was just something that got to me that just like it, like, you know, when you hear a great chord and it hurts?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there it is. Like, that's what the Beach Boys do to me all the time. And that and those beautiful vocal harmonies, like, I just wanted to know how it all worked. I was just so obsessed. And also, like, the themes of their songs, like, I think once you understand the Beach Boys story, and I think you mentioned this in your introduction earlier, like, it is a story of resilience, but it's also a story of trauma. And resilience in the face of trauma. And I think when you fully understand the Beach Boys, that early stuff is colored very differently, right? If you don't know, it's like, come to the beach and everything's great and it's endless summer and the girls are here and it's going to be the best. But I think when you have an idea of the context of that music, you see that they were trying to invent a world that didn't kind of exist for them. And I think there's something so emotionally beautiful about them creating a world, or like, you know, as David Leaf might say, like the California myth, that like we could all buy into, like in our minds that beach stayed in the summertime forever, you know. And I just feel like the more I learned, the deeper I went, the more that music meant to me and the more meaning I could draw from it in my own life. So yeah, I don't know, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it actually, it goes back, it fits perfectly to your first answer, you know, when I grew up to be a man. I mean, the main hook of that is some sort of diminished chord. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, it's like
it
dissonance,
kills me.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
I thought this song was like, it's smooth sailing, and then all of a sudden you have this tension, right? And it's like Brian does that really masterfully. What was the response from I'm so interested, you know, academia. What was the response from the colleagues? Because obviously, for us growing up, and I think for a lot of the folks online right now with us Beach Boy talkers, you know, for high school, Beach Boys were not cool. You know, the Beatles were, of course, have always been cool, but the Beach Boys were not cool. They've never been cool. I think until recently, it's okay to like the Beach Boys. You know, it's now it's the cool thing to like the Beach Boys, and we're all like, hey, we've been here for the past 30 years. Like, we're here 40, 50 years. So, all that to say, what was the response from your colleagues, professors about, hey, I'd like to tackle the Beach Boys?
Honestly, I had the full support of my supervisors. Yeah, they were really. I mean, my principal supervisor, who she put up with me, and she didn't know a lot about the Beach Boys, but she was keen for me to explore some ideas in this thesis, and she got on board with me, and it was just. And it became such a beautiful thing. In terms of colleagues, I didn't have a lot of like postgrad students who were studying at the same time as me. My degree was relatively small, and so I was quite lonely actually for a lot of my studies. And the way that I was able to connect with other colleagues was through conferences, academic conferences, so sort of pop music academic conferences, and I could present some papers about like, look, this is what I'm working on, and that would be a place for me to actually meet some new friends and like connect on that level. And it kind of went two ways. I either got a really great positive response of like, wow, I would never have thought of all of this about the Beach Boys, but I really like them and now I'm kind of engaged. Or often from kind of older male academics would want to take me to task and be like, well, you weren't even there, so what are you doing? Like,
really?
What you don't understand about any of this is, and so I would get actually quite a lot of resistance from like in that regard. I think because
they were there, kind of thing, because they lived through it, maybe, and
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I just don't think they thought somebody who wasn't around could have the insight to do it, which is sort of weird in a way because, like, I mean, look at all of the study of classical music. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like you said,
it's disheartening, like to hear that response.
Strange,
and it's like you said too already about what you said was really profound about they were giving this image of something they really didn't experience, and you can hear that in the chords. And I think with their music, Greg and I talk about all the time, it's timeless stuff. It doesn't matter how old you are, or young. When that music hits you a certain way, it hits you, and you get it. And that's kind of what we feel about it. So,
well, and this kind of goes into a question I had for you, Doctor, was like, I think for all of us, I'll speak for my brother and I, but every time you listen to the Beach Boys, every time you dig into their story, the individual members, the characters that surround the band, you learn something new, or you get something. There's like a new experience every time. Like I'm still learning things about the band, or I'm still hearing things that I didn't hear before, or experiencing in a different way. So with that being said, I'm sure when you walked into this project, you must have had an idea of what it was going to be. And then I'm assuming you kind of mentioned it turned into something. It's like, oh man, this is a huge, like, cause what do you talk about? Do you talk Smile? Or the Pet Sounds period, the early surf, the really hardcore surf band stuff. How did you decide? How am I going to tackle this once you got into it?
That's such a good question. How did I decide?
Yeah.
Well, my original proposal included Smile.
Okay.
And it was going to be that trajectory up until and including that story.
Yeah.
And once I got in there, I was like, oh no, there's just no way. That's a different thesis on its own, actually.
Right? Yeah.
But actually, some of the feedback from my beautiful examiners, one of them was like, what about Good Vibrations? I was like, don't like.
What about the MIU album? I mean,
what about it though? What about it?
I'm gonna write about that.
Yeah,
one
Matt's
day.
gonna write about that.
Maybe that's our collaborative project. That's
there
like our.
Yeah,
right.
You two and Gary Griffin. I think that's about it now.
I'm kidding. Yeah, so I started out. I really wanted to dig into their music.
Yeah.
So I'm a pop musicologist because that's a thing you can be. But the kind of way I would approach studying pop music is that, like, I try not to use notation almost ever if I can get away with it, because I feel like in popular music studies, which is kind of the area I inhabit in academia, there's a real divide. There has been a divide for a really long time between like cultural theorists and people who are really interested in how music's in culture, like how it's being listened to and how it's being interpreted there. And then you have sort of musicologists who are like, well, I care about the notes and that's what I care about. And for a really long time, they didn't really talk to each other. And I think because they require really specific skills. But I also felt when I went to do my thesis, you can't talk about the music without talking about its context. Like the music makes no sense if you don't understand who Brian Wilson is, who all of the band are and their history and where they live and the time in which this music was made. So what I really wanted to do is try to sit in the middle of those areas and kind of pull them together. And I'm obviously not the first person to do that, but that was an essential part of my study. And I also wanted it to be so maybe people who like the Beach Boys but don't have musical training in notation, maybe they could read it and go, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm not saying it's like the most perfectly accessible thing, and I think I've definitely worked on it since, but that was a really big part of me going, well, I don't want to gatekeep it. I don't want this to be locked in an ivory tower where like half a dozen people will understand it. I really wanted to like bring it to the fans and the people, I guess. So that was like the main thrust of my thesis, I guess. That's why I really wanted to do it.
No, I love that.
Well, on that note, I don't want to put you on the spot here. I'm going to ask about a particular song, but because what I'm assuming is like, Pet Sounds is maybe the pinnacle, it all comes together, production, the vocals, the songwriting. But I feel like all in that 5-year period, as you mentioned, to me, there's little snippets of that throughout. And one of the songs that really, Greg's going to know about this one, but one of the songs that really gets me about that, it's a goofy song lyrically, but the music to me shows what Brian could do, or maybe it was already in his head. And that song is Cuckoo Clock from Surf and Safari. if you ever hear I'm serious. You ever hear the
No,
melody of that
I
song?
love it. Like, give it to me.
And it's like, and it's like, to me, it sounds like something that could have been on Smile, the way the notes jump. And again, this is where I'm not an expert in the notation and music, but did you find anything like that when you went through and looked? Because it is a progression, obviously, but it seems like Brian had that ability right from the beginning, even in his teens or early 20s,
Totally. And Cuckoo Click's a good example because it is kind of childish and whimsical in a way that Smile sort of is too.
Yeah.
There's like a kind of delight in the playfulness of like regular life in some ways, of just like a clock on the wall.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about is something I definitely came across. And it's how I actually framed how I studied these records. Oh, actually, I mean, if you want to see it, here it is. Look how big it is.
That is awesome.
I know, it's almost as big as Lord of the Rings.
I love it. Almost. Almost.
It is a journey. It is a journey, though.
Yeah.
So what I was having a lot of trouble trying to frame this story, right? Of like how they go from essentially playing it in a garage to making Pet Sounds. That story was like, how on earth? How did this even happen?
Yeah.
Like they could barely play, and then all of a sudden it becomes this. And so I read this article about the Beatles and by an academic called John Kovacs, who's a US academic who I really like. And he wrote this paper about the Beatles and their song structures and how they went over their early years from craftsmen to artists. And so I looked at that like journey and was like, that's it. That's the frame. The Beach Boys have an earlier period, which I call the apprentice period.
Yeah.
Right, before you become the craftsman, right? So in that apprentice period, which is those early couple of records, they don't quite know how to do it yet. And so so you get wacky stuff happening as they're trying to learn the rules, right? So Cuckoo Clock's one of them too. Something like even like the Lonely Sea, if we go a little bit further, is like the structure of that song kind of makes no sense. There's no kind of chorus. It's a really odd structure that you wouldn't do if you knew the rules,
Right.
if you know what I mean. So they had these rules that they knew, which is those 12-bar blues surf ones. They had like a sense of rules. But in their own songs, they were just doing really odd things, something like Finders Keepers. Like it goes from like a straight feel to a shuffle feel for kind of no reason in that song. But then they do California Girls later on. So it's like you can totally see these threads. So I think like with this early music, a lot of it gets written off as like, oh, well, it's surf cars girls and, nobody cares about that anymore. We're interested in like the more psychedelic stuff. And there's been a real, I think, reappraisal of some of their later work, which is super cool. But I also think these early ones, it's sort of written off as like, well, they were just like cheesy little surf tunes, when actually all the threads from Pet Sounds happen in the preceding years.
Yeah. I love that you said that. It's like, I'm glad there's not like an insane over like analytical approach to their early records, because they're just like a bunch of high school kids that got together and like, they're still learning. Like you don't have to necessarily get that deep in it, but then they become masters of the pop rules, right? With the Wrecking Crew and all that stuff. And then then Brian becomes masters of then breaking the rules again, but in a much more advanced. So it's just like a series of rule breaking and building rules.
That's exactly
so cool.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Like they were sort of like, well, let's just try everything. And so you get these weird things that you wouldn't expect early on.
Yeah.
Then they're like, we've nailed it. We have I Get Around. Which to me is like the pinnacle of like their craftsman.
All summer long,
period.
Right? Exactly.
All summer long also. I mean the song and the record. But that's where it's all happening. That's the craftsman era. And then when we start to get to like today, lesser on Summer Days, Summer Nights, that was kind of to buy them a little bit more time to kind of get to Pet Sounds. But there is some weird, kooky, awesome stuff on there. But then we get kind of the artist period where they're kind of breaking the rules that they had learned. But you can't break them until you learn them.
Sure.
So I just feel like that early period in the early 1960s is just like so interesting in terms of musical growth.
Going into kind of digging into, well, actually I have two questions, but I'll save one. Is I want to know your favorite Beach Boy, but that's like later. That's not really involved. But one of them is, in digging. Oh yeah. Okay. I think we know. I think in digging into all of this, can you maybe give us maybe your biggest aha moment, or maybe something where you were like, I didn't know that and now I do and I can't believe it, or it's something where I didn't know before and now I know, and something like that. I don't know if I'm asking that.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I had lots of those moments because like these were songs I knew going in. And so I thought, well, I've got an idea of what I'm going to find. But the process of me actually sitting down and charting all of those songs and figuring them out. So there were 117 songs in my study.
Nice.
Like, so bonk. Why did I do anyway?
Yeah.
So that process of just like I didn't kind of go in with a theory. I sort of was like, well, let's just poke around and see what happens. Like what I was looking for is like interesting patterns. So it's like, oh, they always seem to do this, or it's weird that all these songs are in like A flat. Why would you write a blues in A flat or E flat? It's so odd.
Yeah,
so I'd find
you're
these
right.
Their
keys
things.
are strange. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it's because it's written on a piano.
Yeah.
Like you would never, if you played a guitar to write those songs, you would never think, hey, I know A flat.
Yeah.
So there's some really weird things, but one of the most amazing things that I found, and that led to a bunch of opportunities for me, in terms of presenting my research, was I had a chapter about lyrics and lyrical themes, which may have been one of the most fun parts of my thesis, I think, because I loved that frame of Surf Cars Girls. And I was like, well, let's see how Surf Cars Girls it is. Yeah. And then they end up getting a different category, which I had called kind of introversion or reflection, which is kind of where we start to get from today to Pet Sounds, but there are a lot of Surf Cars Girls.
Yeah.
So what I thought I would do is I was just trying stuff. Right. So I put all of their lyrics kind of edited down with like fewer repeats, if you know what I mean. And I put it in a word frequency like thing. Because I was like, I wonder what the themes are.
That's
are the biggest names going to be Surf Cars Girls?
Cool.
Let's have a crack, because that's a stupid thing for me to do. And do you want to guess what the most used word is?
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, right?
Can we, Doctor?
This doesn't include like the and words like that, though, right?
No. It's not a word like that.
So,
okay.
So, chat. I think this would be a great
put
question
it in the chat.
for the chat. So let's do that.
Word?
So of the first, up until Pet Sounds, what's the most used word in Beach Boys lyrics? Put it in the chat if you think you know it. We'll say, let's Matt.
I'm going to show you a picture of the diagram later. So.
Matt, let's say the winner will win a prize. How about that? We'll send them a prize. Let's do
MIU T-shirt or something.
Okay. Okay. All right. Matt, what's your guess?
Boy, I don't think it's going to be something obvious. That's what I'm worried about.
It isn't. You are correct.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Oh man.
Whitney said surf or baby. I would guess
in there.
I would guess baby. I think. Well,
Baby's
you gotta think of Mike Love, right? Because Mike Love.
I have it. I'm gonna show it to you.
This is really fun. Girl. Todd says surfing. Janice says girls. Christian says surfing. Christian says cars. This is fun. I gotta think for a second.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, let's play.
Music.
What's like a?
Oh man, it can't be. Surf's probably on there, but that can't be it. It can't be car.
I don't think so.
Car.
It's not car.
Yeah.
It's not summer.
Love. Maybe
that's the theme right there.
Love's in there. Love's pretty up there.
So do you have them? Do you have like top 5 kind of thing, or is it just?
Oh, I could get you a top 5.
No. You don't have to, but.
Like later, if you're really interested.
Yeah, I actually am really interested in this. I think this is so cool. All right. Well,
do you want to know what it is?
Yeah,
this is
I don't have a guess.
I do. Okay, here we go.
Dun, da, da, da. Now. The word is now.
Now. Oh.
Now.
Well,
the diagram.
That's because after every verse of fun, Mike ends it with now.
It's not just fun. It happens in heaps of songs. And I was like, now, that's bonkers. How?
Now.
And I just sat there with this going, what is that? What could that mean? And it ended up being so powerful because I think the idea of now is essential to the early Beach Boys music, especially the, Surf Cars Girls thing and that creation of that myth, right? Like so much of what makes those early songs so fun and joyous and beautiful is because it is about the present. It is like, we're here now. Get in the car and come. Like, it's
That's so
happening now.
great. I
We
love
want to
that.
live in this like never-ending present, right? And it's like so much of that is like they could still be waiting there. Do you know what I mean? When you listen to those songs,
Yeah.
it's about immediacy. It's about youth. It's about like grabbing onto, this beautiful moment before adulthood sets in. It's
Yeah.
like forever present. And I just think the now thing is so interesting because so many of their songs are about like, what are you doing? Get down here, get in your woody, like it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Like, come down, you're invited, you're included.
Doc,
Yeah.
can I just say, I wasn't sure what this was going to be like, to be perfectly honest with you.
Me neither.
And can I just tell you, I think you are awesome. I think you are a rock star. This is so cool. I love this. I'm having
Fascinating, yeah.
like, I'm serious. Like, this is such a cool perspective on the music, and I'm like, I love it, Matt.
And one of the big ones now that
Chuffed.
you said now, is
Now, yeah.
now it's dark and I'm alone, but I won't be afraid. Right? There's in my
it's
room's got
everywhere.
a big
Oh,
use
yeah.
of now. Yeah.
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 And
I'm gonna have to listen to all the
everywhere.
nows now. You know what I mean? Now that
You
say
will
that.
find
Love
it in
it.
in so many songs. And I just thought, wow, that's so fascinating. And what was really cool about that finding is that like I got to have a chapter. I don't know if guys know this book. Some of you in the chat might enjoy it too. This is an academic book about the Beach Boys, and so I have a chapter in it that comes out of my thesis.
Wow.
And it's written by a guy called Philip Lambert, who has since passed away. So
Oh,
RIP.
geez. Okay.
He loved the Beach Boys. And so I had a chapter in this book, and I thought, oh my God, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. And one of the other writers in this book is a guy called Daniel Harrison, who I really loved and looked up to because he was the first person to write about the Beach Boys academically. And it was, do you mind me getting nerdy with books?
No,
Please do
no,
it.
I love it. I love it. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote, this is a book from 1997, and it's an academic music book called Understanding Rock. And again, it's by John Kovach, who I mentioned,
Oh,
who
right.
I stole that kind of concept from him.
Yeah.
And Daniel Harrison has this amazing chapter in here. It's called After Sundown. And it's about the Beach Boys. It's the Beach Boys experimental music.
Oh,
and it was the
cool.
first paper that like actually analyzed what they were doing. And I
Yeah, look
read
at
this
that.
and was like, oh my God, I love it. This is the greatest. And I just thought he was incredibly cool. He ended up in this book, and then he ran, this is his last semester teaching. He's a professor at Yale.
Oh, wow.
And he had a class which was essentially the history of the Beach Boys because that's what you can do. And it was like a
man.
post-grad class. And so he had lots of people on. So Kurt Kerner was part of that. David Leaf was part of it. Philip Lambert was. And so was I. And they flew me to Yale to talk about the Beach Boys.
Of course they
Because of-
did. Yeah.
Because of now. Because Daniel Harrison read it and went, what the hell? I never thought of that. Why don't you come over? And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Oh, that is awesome.
So that's where that finding got me.
Wow.
But it's such a neat way to approach the music. I mean, what an interesting. I need to get that. I need to get a picture of that from you so I can see what the other
will
words
send
are.
it.
Yeah.
Now, I love that
Now.
so much. Okay.
So kind of
Yeah.
in this. Can I ask a question real quick? Kind of in this line. That's a lyrical side. We're not. Greg and I are fans. We know some stuff about the band, but one of the myth, and maybe it's not a myth. That's why I want to ask you is that Brian wrote the music. As it got more progressive and more instruments, it was all Brian experimenting. In your research, did you find that was true? I don't want to take away from the other band members, but was it more a collective effort? Was it really like, Brian doing this and the other band members like, okay, sounds good to me, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I feel like there's that, story as part of, I guess, the Beach Boys history about that tension of Brian pushing and wanting to explore other ideas and other members of the band going, but we're on a good thing. Like, why can't we just, stick with the formula?
Yeah.
Right.
That famous quote, which, I'll leave out the swears, but
yeah.
stick with the formula. And I think if they had have stuck with the formula, they wouldn't have survived. It just wouldn't have gone to where it needed to go. So I also think that those tensions kind of work in a way. I think having had that what am I trying to say? Having that experience with learning a formula, learning a craft, meant that Pet Sounds and Smile, for how weird and interesting they are still deeply accessible. I think, you know, like you could listen to the songs on Pet Sounds and they're actually quite avant-garde at times. There's like weird sounds. The song structures make no sense. Like some of them have structures that are like AABB, which is like, what is that even? How do you even? Because they sort of had this through composed idea. But I think because of those early days, those early surf days, I mean, Brian especially always maintained a sense of, I'm still trying to connect to an audience. It's still important to me for people to understand what I'm trying to say. And so they had this beautiful mix of the avant-garde, but also accessibility. And I just, I think that's what makes that period so beautiful.
I'm so glad you said that. Because you mentioned your favorite song today is Wouldn't It Be Nice, right? And that's, to me, that's a great example of that, because like at the end you have the Run Run We Use, right? Which is like, that's so throwback to like late 50s doo-wop, right? So it's like, I love that about, they're still using things from the past, you know, that are uncool, but they're making it different. I love it. I thought that's so cool.
That's one of my top 3 backing vocal parts, Run Run We You. I think that's second to me, if I had to pick 3.
Okay.
The number 1 is Dot Did It. I mean, how can you go It's the dorkiest one. I can't get enough. Dot Did It.
You're coming up with a lot of show content for us. Thank you. That'll be our next poll. What's your favorite
backing vocals? Run Run
vocal?
We Use is a classic though.
Run Run We You. What are the other ones? Do you have some other ones that you know that you can think of right now?
You know what? This is so dumb, but I actually did make a whole chart of the ones I really liked. Those are the 2 that I always come back to.
You are great. I love that.
It's just so cute. It's so cute, isn't it? The cutest. Anyway.
But you are right that it is a formula. I never thought about it like that, because that does come back in Wouldn't It Be Nice, right? But that led me to a question I had written down, and since you mentioned Pet Sounds, and again, I'm just wondering your opinion on this. Are the songs on, is Pet Sounds so amazing because the songs are superiorly written, the production and everything, or is it more just the production and the vocals? Because for instance, I think of a song like Don't Worry Baby, you know, maybe if you throw that in Pet Sounds and put a little more sleigh bells or weird instruments, it might fit right on there, you know what I mean? Or Kiss Me Baby, you know, there's songs like that. So
She Knows Me Too Well.
She Knows Me Too Well, exactly. So from the musical side, would you say that's probably true? That was kind of Brian's best songwriting up to that point?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely. It was certainly the most fully realized album. And I think the reason that people really love, I mean, one of the reasons I'll speculate that people love about Pet Sounds is that it's sort of a concept album without being like officially referred to as. Like we think of Sgt. Pepper as like the first concept album, but in actual fact, it was sort of going to be and then wasn't. But they, you know, it was the idea that they were going to inhabit this other band called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and all these songs would be from their perspective or whatever. And it started out that way because it's got the opening and then it's got the reprise at the end, but everything in the middle is sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it's sort of as like a cohesive bunch of songs. It's sort of referred to as a concept record. I think Pet Sounds is one of the first one. Actually, I think like Lil Deuce Coupe is one of the first pop music concept albums because like it does what it says on the tin, right? But Pet Sounds is like a next level kind of conceptual record. Like there's that story that, you know, Brian Wilson heard Rubber Soul and thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I got to top that. And he referred to that record as like a great collection of folk songs, and that it was like an album that was meant to be experienced as an album, right? Whereas previous to that, the pop music world in the 60s was all about singles. Right? It was about like you know, like the idea of the album being what it is now. Like it was happening kind of in the 60s in this way of like having an album be a statement of an artist and having something that's cohesive and stuck together. I think Pet Sounds kind of nailed it. Even though I do feel like, I mean, there's a conversation about like why is Sloop John B on there, but if you as the kind of wonky one that sort of, but I think if you listen to the arrangement on Sloop John B, like I cannot believe, if you listen to the original of that song and then listen to where it got to, it's like how do you even hear 3 chords and then make it about this journey that you don't want to be on, which of course is like adulthood and the loss of innocence and all of that kind of stuff. You can actually tie it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like Pet Sounds was the space where it was like super fully realized musically, lyrically, in terms of culture, in terms of, Brian Wilson figuring out what he really wanted to say about adulthood and the loss of that. So I just think it's like a lot of things that came together that just like made that particularly special.
And to your point too, it's like, I think most every album, if not all of them up until that point, had that one on there that was just like a head scratcher, right? So like, I love Summer Days, but like Amusement Parks USA and I'm Bugged at My Old
Salt
Man.
Lake City.
Yeah, Salt Lake City.
I'm Bugged at My Old Man.
My is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
actually.
it is.
Well, we were gonna do All Summer Long, and like it's such a great record. And then what's the one on there? Oh, My Favorite Recording Sessions.
Our favorite recording session.
Yeah, like Today has that weird. Same thing, right? Don't they? It doesn't
They're eating hamburgers or something.
Bull sessions, like
Bull sessions.
Yeah, they kind of drop that on Pet Sounds. You don't get that kind of quirky. It's like this is the real deal here. Pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think those were like, these like little slices into their life, I guess. They were almost little playlets or something.
Yeah.
That was sort of included in it. But I don't know any other bands that did that around the same time. It was so weird and cute and that they were like, oh, this is us making a fake argument between each other or whatever.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Shut
it.
Down Volume 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Cassius Love and
Yep.
Wilson or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just it's really cute. Well, actually, I mean, part of what I had to do when I was like studying this stuff was I was finding that when I was listening to, and like you might have this experience too, but like when you're listening to the finished recordings, it's actually really hard to hear what's happening, because of the use of reverb and because of the way Brian recorded a lot of this stuff, being influenced by Phil Spector's Wall of Sound, right?
Yeah.
It's like, things are happening in there, but it's actually very hard to pinpoint what's going on.
Yeah.
And so what I had to do is I had to try and dig into those Sea of Tunes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have all of them. But they were really, they were so essential because like I could listen to the tracking sessions of like California Girls took like 60 takes or something, which makes me feel great if I mess up something. It took that long to get California Girls, but like how they would group the way they recorded some of the, like California Girls is a great example because they'd have like the bed track, which would be like drums, bass, some sort of keyboardy thing. And that was like the bed track, sometimes two basses, which I think Brian called tic-tac bass, which was the combination of the upright and the guitar. Yeah. So, but then they do the next batch, which would be like more auxiliary instruments. So there'll be like a piano, some horns, bits and like other bits and bobs. And then there'd be like a third auxiliary one. And then all of those, because they're still working on like sometimes 4 tracks and then 8 later, they would bounce all that stuff down to 1 track and then leave all the rest open for vocals. Yeah. But of course there was bleed and there was spill through, and so it was actually quite hard to hear. Like, is there a weird organ in this song? Right. Those tracking sessions helped me kind of hear it, because I feel like if one of those things was pulled out, you'd notice, but you wouldn't actually be able to like name what it is. So yeah, I think kind of discovering how those things were pieced together allowed me to go see how richly these early songs were arranged. I think
it's also amazing if you listen to some of those tracking sessions and the Sea of Tunes on most of those albums. It's kind of, I don't know if you noticed this, but I was kind of always amazed that they got anything done. They seem like they like when did they, at what point did they get together and sing the actual chorus of California Girls? Because they joke, it's like all joking and just like screwing up. Like 90% of it is just messing around, and then one time they just do it, I guess. I don't know, it's crazy.
I know, like I just think of the When I Grow Up to Be a Man one. I don't know if you remember those sessions where like they're doing the bit at the end where they count all the numbers. But there's one take where they all just say 69 every time. And it's like, oh yeah, you're 18. Like you're a bunch of young boys. Of course you're gonna be weird.
It is something to keep in mind, right? Because I think the music is so mature and advanced, and now we look at it as, but how old is Carl in 1964, right?
He's a tiny baby.
Like 17,
Yeah, yeah.
16, 17. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, insane.
I know. So like there's so much fun and joy in like actually listening to some of those. Like
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have done it if I wasn't like, oh, I have to do it because this is what I need to do. But man, it just gave me a sense of like how playful and stuff like that, like playful
Yeah.
that those sessions could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And,
love
and the
that.
fact that he was, I mean, Brian Wilson was 23, you know, when Pet Sounds
Still a
came out. I mean,
baby.
20, yeah,
Tiny.
23. And that kind
Insane.
of leads me to another question because I know the focus of your work was on the first part, but
Mhm.
I know you're a diehard Beach Boys fan. So what do you think happened after? Maybe it's kind of a loaded question, but what do you think happened after Pet Sounds? Because there is brilliance. You know, you mentioned Sunflower, Our Sweet Love, All I Want to Do. You know,
One of my
brilliant.
favorite.
I Went to Sleep on 2020 is brilliant. You know, Until I Die, but you never got another. And unless you count Love You, but you never got just an album where Brian Wilson had it all together like that, in my opinion. Why do you have any thoughts on why you think that happened?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if Brian knows what that might be. But I mean, I think about it and go, well, you know, Pet Sounds was so emotionally important to Brian as far as what, you know, I've read. Like this was his opus in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what was really hard for Brian around the release of Pet Sounds was that his label didn't support it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I didn't hear a single, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice? It's got only like, what are you even talking about? But because it was so different, Capitol, I just don't think knew what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
And so they did something really sneaky. Not long after the release of Pet Sounds, they released a Beach Boys best of
Right.
their earlier records. And it killed it. It crushed it in the charts. It got Pet Sounds out of the way and it got them selling records of rehashed stuff that had already been released. And I think that deeply hurt Brian. He's a very emotional, I think, person. And I think the disappointment of like, this is my gift to you of everything I can do.
Yeah.
And to have that label kind of go, well, we don't believe in it and we want this over.
Yeah.
Get back to the formula or whatever.
Yeah.
Was deeply awful. And I think when he finally got himself ready to kind of go ahead and do Smile, I just think there was so much unresolved stuff and lack of confidence and like him being pulled in a lot of directions, like what the label wants, what the rest of the band wants, that he's making these new connections with other collaborators and the tension of that. I just feel like he doesn't. And I think this is the thing in like the story of Brian Wilson. Like obviously I'm not a professional in this particular regard, but he was not a well person in the 60s and the 70s. You know, I think there's a lot, sometimes people talk about, you know, oh, kooky Brian in the swimming pool and like all that, you know, and that's thought of as like, what a kooky creative person. I think we can reframe it in a more modern light to say, well, he was crying out for help, but no one help. And I feel like maybe he had that help and it was his behavior was understood as like a collection of symptoms, like maybe there could have been another Pet Sounds, maybe there could have been a redemption in that sort of way. We're lucky that we get these little snippets, I think, through the rest of the back half, you know, of their career. But I also think trying to finish Smile was really, really hard with not a lot of support. I mean, in particular with Mike, I think that's probably the most well documented, like what does columnated ruins domino even mean?
Right.
There's that kind of thing. And so, I mean, I think Brian needed approval and wanted approval from people that meant something to him. And I think, maybe he just wasn't able to because of these outside forces, not through lack of talent or lack of ideas, but just lack of support.
Yeah, I love that you said that too, because I think that to be fair to the people around Brian too, I don't think they knew how to how to address it, right? So it's like that's such a tough spot for everybody at that time.
So
you know?
hard.
Yeah,
so hard. Like didn't have a name for it.
Right.
It was just like, oh, Brian's on drugs and it's kooky and look at all these things and he played California Girls for 3 hours on a piano at a party or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's all these little
Ding
like, you know, like the fire, like, you know, like the fireman hats and the bucket and the stuff, you know, like all of that could be psychedelic, you know, fun, playful. But I think we know better now from a modern lens. And that's kind of why I say like the story of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys is like a story of resilience against trauma and a lot of really difficult stuff. And I think that's why Brian is so loved. And like we feel so protective in a way over well-being, you know, because we get it. We get him. That's the heart of so much of their music.
Yeah, and what you said really is powerful, makes sense, because even after Pet Sounds and Smile and albums going forward, most of them had a stipulation. Brian had to write a certain amount of songs on the album, you know. And he, as he got worse and worse in his mental health, that had to be so much pressure, you know, just to do that. And so it's just seems like what you're saying. I tend to agree with the Pet Sound Smiler kind of was a breaking point for him. It's just so sad because he was so young, you know, when it happened.
I mean, like 24, 25. Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that, Matt? Like, do you have ideas on like what you have about that? I mean,
I do. What you say makes sense. I wonder too, was part of it culture and, you know, the Beach Boys, we all know they became uncool. Maybe after Pet Sounds, on the other hand, Brian, like you said, he's like, I gave him my all. People aren't that interested in it. And he was over it. You know, I think that could be part of it too. But then you got to wonder too, because there's glimpses of it again, like Until I Die is one of the most emotional and beautiful songs he ever wrote, but it's him at that time period, you know? So it's hard
writing them. I mean, I even did once like Still I Dream of It or It's Over Now. Like, I listen to those and go, that could have been a Pet Sounds song.
And
like
you know,
like Still I Dream of It, like, oh my god.
And
beautiful and sad.
And he still had those things. Greg pointed one out to me. We're going a little bit off track, but on Keeping the Summer Alive album, Going On, Greg, there's that part in the middle, right, where he just all of a sudden changes the key. And, that's a Brian Wilson thing, you know, that he still had those things. It just wasn't a consistent thing. And I guess that's, but your answer, your opinion makes sense. It was just when he's in there and he's in the mood, he could do it, and he did it well, but just didn't have that drive anymore, you know?
I think you're right about consistency. I think that lack of musical consistency aligned with the lack of consistency in his well-being. Possibly.
I bet.
You know, maybe. I mean, it's funny you talk about that key change, because I think the way that Brian Wilson uses key changes, like, it just makes me so happy. Because he does such weird things with them. Do you want me to tell you one of my favorite ones? So my favorite key change is it is in Drive-In. Which is a song who cares about that? I mean, who knows about that song? I don't know. But it is a really cute song about going to the drive-in and like don't let them see you making out with your girl in the car. Watch out, only you can prevent forest fires. Like, it's really weird. Snapshot in time. Like, even like as an Australian listener, I'm like, what fires? Like, I didn't also touch point that was like a bear. But if you listen to Drive-In, they change key. That's got a great weird key change. And then Dance Dance Dance, which is on today, has maybe the most bonkers one, because it changes key in the middle of a verse.
And Mike's got to all of a sudden switch in the middle of singing to the new, which is, he's got like a millisecond to do it. It's pretty crazy.
Totally. But it is insane. Who would think, you know what, this 4-bar verse needs a modulation? And it is so effortless. And it just goes, and it just it makes that whole song rise.
It does. It does.
And it is so odd the way it's like, that to me is Brian like having fun and being like, what if I did this? And like, and then it's such a beautiful example of like his playfulness in composition. I think is just like, well, let's just put one in here. I mean, Don't Worry Baby is a really subtle one where it changes key just in that chorus section, so you feel like you've gone somewhere and then you return. It's a really cool one. Even I Get Around has a really sneaky one that you wouldn't know if it was in there, but you feel different when it happens. You go, oh, there's a lift there, or something exciting's just happened, even if you can't kind of pinpoint what it is. So his like sneaky modulations just like fill my heart.
We could talk a lot about musically. I mean, I always thought Brian's bridges are really good too. So like Surfer Girl, what's the Girls on the Beach, Matt?
God, Girls on the Beach kills me modulation wise.
Talk about changing keys. That song is all over the place.
And Dennis singing that, so good. His bridges. I mean, he's a great writer.
Keep an Eye on Summer's got a great one.
Keep an Eye on Summer.
My heart, I love that song.
Yeah, me too.
Yep,
it was almost the title of my thesis. So it was
all right. So what's next for you, Beach Boys wise? I mean, do you have any plans to do anything?
It's so funny you ask this because so I haven't published my thesis, which is probably something that like a lot of people who do a thesis will publish it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's so I have some of it in here, but I need a little time away, I think, to go to just get some perspective on did I have anything in here that I feel like has an extra life, a life to it. And I spent a lot of that time being a casual academic. A lot of, I'm sure that it's the same in the States that you're scrambling to find academic positions that aren't full-time, and so I just spent a lot of scrambling, I guess, trying to find a place where I could be. And now that I have one, I guess I can kind of start thinking about what comes next research wise. I wrote a book last year with my husband, who's also an academic. He's a music psychologist, so he looks at how music works in our brains. So I'll tell you about Beach Boys, but he might tell you what your brain likes about the Beach Boys.
I don't know if I want to know that.
I know, that's scary.
Right? Never mind, that's scary. He's not welcome.
We wrote this book together, which is called Hooks in Popular Music, and it's about pop hooks and why they're catchy and get stuck in our head, right? Yeah. So it's stuff from the last 30 years, basically. So from the 90s to kind of now. So the Beach Boys they're in here, but they're not a main focus of it. And then I thought, well, I did that. Now what do I do? And I kept thinking about my thesis and the stuff about the Beach Boys, but there's just this voice that's does anyone care about what I have to say? Truly, and I've been honest with you. I'm just does anyone really? Is this a thing that people might be interested? But then I get this message from you guys, and I'm I can't believe someone cares.
And by the way, you came highly recommended by Nelson Bragg, who's quite a musician. Brian Wilson band member, and I don't know if you can see the chat, but everybody says this. They're fascinated. They love it. And and there's and there's a lot of history books written about the Beach Boys, a lot of books about all those things, but your angle on it is so different,
Thanks.
It really get it, the whole thing you talked about with Now and the lyrics and the backgrounds, and then how Brian progressed as a songwriter. To me, that's very really interesting stuff, and it even the stuff we talked about tonight is going to make me listen to some of those songs a little differently. So I think it's important,
and to throw that out there too. I think Matt and I definitely suffer from the imposter syndrome kind of thing, where it's
oh, hi, hello,
where
hi,
it's
good to meet you, me too.
Well, and our safety valve, and it's kind of our security blanket, is at the beginning of the show we always say, hey, we're not experts, we're not historians. That way, if we screw up, we're wait, we told you we're dumb. So we totally get it. But I think you're on a very different level than most.
Gosh, no.
I mean, your work is
I'm just
really
a dorky
brilliant.
fan, truly. It's not.
Well,
it's so cute and so sweet. You call me an expert, but I think there's part of me that goes, well, now that I know what I don't know.
Right.
After doing all of that, and it just there's just so much. I learn from everyone, and I absolutely have learned from this conversation. And maybe I was thinking this year, maybe I should try and get this thing published in an actual book.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this little chat has even just given me some confidence to maybe maybe somebody might care. I think about the Beach Boys books. There's so many amazing, beautiful books, but I don't know if you noticed, but none of them are written by women.
Yeah,
it's a real duty hang for a lot of the big seminal kind of books about the Beach Boys. So,
well, and even from just Matt and I can this is our 4th season, and they're out there, but there's just not as many.
I'm not alone.
Right. No, you're not. And so it's the more voices I think we can get, I think the better. I
think so too.
I think you're brilliant. I think I probably speak for everybody in the Beach Boy community that put stuff out, we will buy it. And I'm serious. So we would. I think your perspective is great. Your work is wonderful. So And honestly, it's all self-serving, because Matt just mentioned, I now want to go listen to all summer long again. You know what I mean? Because it makes it more fun for us. It's more to think about, and it's really great. So you've been awesome. Yeah, I really
Oh,
have.
thank you. Maybe we can have another chat later on.
Yes. So when
Another
you do put something out, you need to come back on, and we need to sell 1 million copies of it on Amazon.
Easy peasy.
So I know you're a musician as well, and so I got to ask, kind of digging into that just a little bit. Did you and your husband, after writing hooks in popular music, did you guys like reverse engineer that to make the perfect pop song? You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, we're gonna be massively famous.
It's
yeah,
like the code kind of thing, right?
I do know the code.
yeah.
I wish it was that easy, because that'd be amazing, right? We could all just.
Isn't that funny that you'd think it would be, but it's just random stuff.
I got a lot of tools.
Yeah.
I got a lot of ideas on how songs kind of get us and what makes them really fun and special, and especially hooks being like the part of the song we like the most, the bits we look forward to, right? So those little key changes and stuff I talked about, like that's a hook for me, because it's like I can't wait till that bit happens. Like that's the bit I like.
Yeah.
And I think that the cool thing about like the hook stuff is that some of them are really big, dumb, obvious ones. Like they're meant to be there, like a cool riff or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are some personal hooks that I think all of us have, especially with the Beach Boys music, that are just like personal to us, and we care about emotionally, or because something happened and it reminds us of that song. Like I think of Our Sweet Love, which you mentioned before. Like in the second verse, there is a counter melody that comes in on a cello, right? Nobody would care about this, but every time it comes in, I'm just like, oh, my cello friend, there you are.
Yeah.
It just kills me. But that's not in there for a hook, but it's just like, for me, I just go, that's the bit I love, you know? It just adds something special. So the Beach Boys are full of those moments for me. So I mean, maybe there's more to say about the Beach Boys, and maybe I should get my act together and start
love that. Well,
knocking it into a book.
Yeah. There's that. I kind of want to ask. This is way off. I just want to ask why I have you on here, because you're an expert. Did you ever study in the pop music? Did you ever talk about that back in the 60s there was that Italian pop artist who like put out this pop song to make it sound American, but he actually was just doing gibberish the entire time? Do you know what I'm talking about? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It's like, it's the weirdest thing. It's like, it sounds like a pop tune, and it sounds like he's speaking English, but he's not. It's just gibberish that he is trying to make sound like English. And it like got
it's like huge. AI made it or something.
It's weird. Yeah, it's the strangest thing. Okay, anyway, I wanted to ask you
Send
about
it to me. I want to.
I always thought Louie was like that, the original, where they're not saying anything, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of examples of that. But
well, you know that the example of that song, right? Like the FBI had that song on a watch list.
Is that crazy? We had
because they were like, well, we don't know what it is, so it must be covert messages about delinquents. Like, let's get what desk of what person sitting at a desk going, well, what are you doing today, Bill? Well, I'm really going to crack down on Louie.
Yeah,
the Kingsman.
Yeah, exactly. So from a music standpoint, are you putting out any records? You got anything we can listen to or share with the group?
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm working on something at the moment, so maybe I can get back to you once I've got my act together about that. Just a little EP of some little pop songs, which obviously sound a lot like the Beach Boys because they're in there.
Yeah.
And for anyone in Sydney, I have a yacht rock band, which is maybe the dumbest project.
No way.
It's a 12-piece band, and we're a behemoth, and it's real silly and real fun. We're called Smooth Sailing, and if you want to listen to some Steely Dan or some
Christopher Cross.
Chris Cross, of course.
Yeah.
So that's my fun party band. So we play around a little bit.
That
so if you want to
sound like fun.
Climb aboard with us.
All right, Matt, we're going to Australia. Yeah. We're taking the show to Australia.
Oh my gosh, awesome. Come and play with me.
Yeah. It's funny, Australia has some really interesting Beach Boy, like some of the more iconic Beach Boy concerts have happened in Australia. There's the the really early one where they do What I Say.
Oh, What I Say, yeah.
And then and then like there's the one where Carl like takes too many somethings and then he has a crazy show. It's like it's hilarious and sad and scary at the same time.
Fell off the drums, like he fell off the kit and couldn't kind of continue. And there's some dramatic Beach Boys stories. I mean, they're massive here, and they were in the 60s too. I mean, they inspired an entire surf rock scene in Sydney in the 1960s as well. And I think because their music made sense to us. Like it's not that dissimilar from Southern California or down here in a way. Our lives are about sun and stuff. I mean, not me. I'm real pale. Like I grew up in a suburb called Surfers Paradise. Like maybe this was destined. Maybe I was destined to do this.
Yeah, I guess you were born surfer girl. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, Gidget. Look, I'm so.
Hey, today's the anniversary of the world premiere of Brian Wilson Presents Smile. Just give us a few thoughts on Smile and what you think about that music.
Oh my gosh, that was maybe one of the most important days of my life when I got to see that. I just could not believe when that announcement happened. Like I was like, this has got to be a prank.
Yeah,
like how is this even happening? So I'd seen Brian Wilson for the first time during the Pet Sounds tour, and that blew my mind. And the Smile tour, I got to see a couple of those shows, but it's personally really important, I think, to me because so I met my husband online and he used to read my blog.
Awesome.
Cool. And so he was in Sydney and I was up in Queensland, and it was my first trip to Sydney to visit him, and we went and saw Smile. It was essentially our first date.
Oh, wow.
And it was at the Opera House in Sydney, so beautiful
cool,
and amazing. And I remember walking down the stairs after, and he's just like, well, it's all downhill from here. Like, how am I gonna top this? But I just remember hearing those songs and just cry. I just could not believe what was happening. It was so important, and it's like happy Smile-iversary. I just never thought we'd have it. And then we got to have it. And it exists in the form that it came out in. But I think, like you said earlier, there's also the fan thing of, well, Smile is so weird and modular that you can kind of build your own still like Lego. Like I think of it like Lego, right? It's well, I've got these pieces and I made a tree and then I made a house and it's all still Smile.
That's a great way to put Legos.
I love that.
So I just think, like, what an amazing thing that happened. I just feel so grateful that I got to see a bunch of those Smile songs like a few times when they, toured down here, and and like you said with Nelson and Probin and Darian, who were all really helpful in my studies. Like I would email going, hey, and please let me wonder like what chord is happening there, and they'll go, oh, look, I don't know, man, we just we use our best, we used our best because it's so beautiful and so vague or whatever, but it was just so beautiful for them to like chime in and give me a hand with that kind of stuff. And I did like, just to finish, I did get to meet Brian, which was like maybe the coolest thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm here with people who would actually care about this story.
Oh, that's what we do here. Yeah,
that's the reason we have the show. We're around people that care because nobody else does.
It was so cute, and so this was at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney, and he and so this was backstage in his like kind of green room or whatever, and the rest of the band were there too, and they said, hey, this is Jadey, she's doing her PhD thesis on your music, and he said, oh cool, I'm a doctor too, because he must have like 1 million honorary doctorates, right?
That's awesome. He said that.
Yeah, I know, and this is his sense of humor. Like I think it was Probin who was like, hey Brian, why don't you tell her how you make harmonies? And he went, well, I just get you and you to sing at the same time. And I was just like, that's hilarious.
That's great.
And he had a little dinky keyboard in the corner, and he went over and he taught me a harmony and we sung together.
What?
Wow.
Love and Mercy.
Dang.
And like I was just like, I know. And then the rest of the band were there, and then they joined in. It was just like, I can't believe this is happening. So then I went outside the venue and I just kind of spun in a circle and cried.
Yeah, I would too. I'd probably pass out and cry at the same time. Yeah.
It was
it
is on video, but I've never watched it again because it's cooler in my mind.
Man, I don't know that. I think you win. I mean, I don't know that anybody beats that. Yeah, I think so. I mean, what's better than that?
I mean, Brian Wilson saying, "Come sing harmonies with me." I mean, dang, that's.
I know.
And I was like,
yeah. Yep. I think we'd all probably do something similar to that. Yeah. Oh,
anyway, so there you go. No one would care except for you guys. So thank you.
No, that's beautiful. That's a great one. Yeah.
I'm secondhand jealous of that and excited. That's pretty. That's
maybe
really
I'll send
cool.
you the video.
Oh yes, you should. Oh, that's great. Well,
oh,
hey,
my goodness, you guys, thank you.
We can't thank you enough for joining us. This was like insightful.
It was fascinating, amazing.
Fascinating.
Thank you so much.
All of it, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Guys.
Yeah, you are a super friend of the show. So will you come join us again sometime?
Oh my gosh, please have me back.
We would love
feel
that.
like I've got 2 beautiful new friends now, and maybe some people in the chat too can be my friend as well. So.
Oh, you know what? You are lucky because all these folks are now your friend, and they're the sweetest people on the planet because they're all great Beach Boy fans and the best versions of Beach Boy fans too. They're just.
It makes me
people.
so happy because I haven't dipped into the fandom stuff in like a really long time, and I think, God, am I welcome or what? But I don't know. This has really filled up my.
It can be a little treacherous.
Our honorary expert. You got to be
I know.
Part of our club.
You are an actual doctor. Yeah, exactly. So
I should have put my hat on. I'll put my here's my doctor hat.
Oh, there you go.
Now I'm ready to prescribe.
I love it. Hey everybody, how about some hearts, love in the chat for our honored guest this evening, Dr. Jadey. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. You are wonderful. This was great.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You were great. Thank you very much.
You were awesome.
We enjoyed it. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, have a good rest of your day. What am I talking about?
Yes. Back to work.
Get back to work.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Oh man, she was great.
That was really, really interesting. I'm glad we had a dose of that, and all our guests have been awesome. But that the analytical side like that, you know, and all that stuff, you and I don't get into too much, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, but it wasn't, and I agree, and I think she also had some really neat perspectives on the music. I loved that she went about the lyric thing from trying to do like some sort of lyric web of, you know, I forget what type of chart they call that, but now being pulled out as a big,
and what
big
to take from that maybe it was subconscious they did that, but the whole idea is that we're doing this now. We're not singing about the past. It's happening.
It's interesting.
That experience in your mind, you know?
Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, I can't thank her enough for taking the time, and can't thank all of you enough for joining us this evening, all of our Beach Boy talkers out there. So we had a nice group of people here tonight. So I hope we can get our hands on some of that stuff, because I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. You know, just the other part I didn't really think about before was we've heard a lot, you know, Beach Boys, the California myth, the Southern, you know, life in Southern California, but she's right. That's not what they sing about. Is like what they wanted it to be, not what it was for them, you know? And I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah.
Makes me think about the songs differently.
Matt, what are all the songs that have now in it? Can we talk through that for a second? So fun, right?
That's got about half of them probably in the whole thing.
It's car chickers to the hamburger stand now. That has half the nows in it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's got to. And you're not going to believe me, but I was going to guess now. I promise you.
I 100% do not believe you. That is correct.
I was, man.
Yeah, I think you're full.
But in my room's got now. When you think about it, it's hard to hey now it's a love thing. That song's got now.
That's not the little.
Oh, this is in the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I see. Man,
I think it's got. I wonder if it's Mike Love's.
Now here we are together. Please let me wonder. Has now.
Oh yeah. Does Scoop have now in it anywhere?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. Surfer Girl.
I don't know. That's the thing. You have to listen and go through now and listen for a now. You know what I mean?
I know. Now I'm going to hear now or only
because it really doesn't seem that believable, but it does and it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Because maybe it's just, it seemed like not a very important word in a song, but when she brought it out, do it again. Please let me wonder does. Oh, Surfer's Rule does. That's true. Plastered in the hall all around the school now.
Oh, yeah. That's another one of those funs where it's like just the tag of every verse. Yeah. Thanks, Stacy. Appreciate it. Michael says this EP really makes me want to listen to some records tonight. Oh, episode. Me too. Yeah, I'd like to dig into. Like I said, all summer long. This actually teed up all summer long kind of nicely. So we're gonna hit all summer long on Tuesday. So we've got there are a lot of. I mean. Girls on the Beach, we're talking about those really nice, all the really nice chord changes.
And it's got to me the greatest cover they ever did. The vocals are so perfect. Hushabye. I mean, that's one of their that I remember that one as a kid. I had it on a cassette tape.
So good.
Brian's vocal in
Brian's
there.
vocal on that is oh dude.
Yeah.
His like I said, to me it's like peak that era Brian vocal. Like it's got this sharp quality of the tone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the intonation's great and it soars. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, his harmonies are great. Yeah, All Summer Long, obviously great tune.
Little Honda's really on there.
Dude, the more I listen to Little Honda, the more I'm like, that tune, I dig that.
The only thing I don't like about that song is, and you know this stuff, and you and Dr. Jadey know, but like it doesn't have like a middle part. Do you know what I mean? Whatever you call that.
Yeah, it's just like
the verse and the chorus over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Well,
it would be cool if it had a little, like even a guitar solo in the middle or something. You know, I don't know, but it doesn't have any of that. It just kind of repeats.
It does. You know? It's rinse and repeat for 100%. But still.
And Wendy, Wendy's a classic song.
Wendy, yep. Yeah. Don't back down.
Those are the big ones. Don't Back Down. Probably they're big. Like you talked about the era where it's the surf car era, but it's their best. I think Don't Back Down is probably one of their best surf songs.
Yeah.
And that's a little complicated song with a key change in it, right? When it goes, you gotta be a little nice.
Oh, yeah.
Change key there?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's gonna be fun.
Step, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, key change there.
Simple,
she's right on Dance. That Dance key change is fantastic. It totally changes the song. Like it brightens it up automatically.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah, that was interesting what she said too, because it is true. I never knew how to describe it, but it does. It gives it another energy, you know, when it does that. So
yeah.
Key changes.
So how's everybody else doing out there? Everything good? Hey, honored guest joining us in the chat tonight, Dominic Priore. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Halibut's instrumental surf version of Don't Back Down from Live at Toes. Oh, I am not aware of that.
I want to listen to that.
Yeah, now I would love to hear that.
Because I think that's a neat little song. It's too short for me. That's another one. I wish it had a little bit more in it, because it's really a nice piece of music, you know. So
yeah, it is. It's really really fun. So cool, Matt. Well, what do you think, buddy? You wanna call it?
It starts with Just a Little Glance now. Right away, you're thinking about romance.
Yeah,
now.
but that's Pet Sounds.
That counts. It was up to Pet Sound.
Oh, it does count?
Yeah. Anyway.
Let's take our car and mess around at the park all day now.
Anyway, that was interesting. I'm gonna find all the nows. I don't know how many there are, but I'm gonna listen to them. So.
Matt's gonna be Matt. We're gonna go into Matt's office. He's gonna have like the newspaper over the windows, and you're gonna have like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, if
on the
I had
walls,
hair,
like,
it'd be like going crazy. I'm like, now.
I finally found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, I enjoyed that a lot. Greg Shady said, Greg, here's that song. I've listened to it for years. Okay, cool though.
Hey, Michael, the Sea of Tunes outtake. So Sea of Tunes was a label, or I think it was a label, like a bootleg label, and they put out illegally, I think, all of the albums and their
the sessions.
Like the sessions. So they're floating around. I think you can probably snag them from
some of that stuff's on YouTube.
A lot of it's on YouTube. Yeah. So if you type in Sea of Tunes, oh, you know what they're called, Michael? They're called the Unsurpassed Masters, right? Isn't that what they're called?
Yeah,
Sea of Tunes Unsurpassed Masters, and it's all the tapes. So yeah. Christian, thank you very much for the kind words. Appreciate it. We love hanging out with you guys. There are lots of nows, said Todd. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to the nows more too, for sure. Jadey, hey, there's Jadey. There's Dr. Jadey. Yes, Unsurpassed Masters. That's right. So
she was great. So. Why don't you play us out with Dr. Regan's favorite Beach Boys song? Wouldn't it be nice? How about that?
Wouldn't it be nice? Let's do it.
Good way to close it out.
gotta make sure. Okay, I think I got it. All right, in honor of the good Dr. Jadey for joining us, let's play some Wouldn't It Be Nice? I love it. I'm going to put some reverb on here. There we go. Wouldn't it be nice if we were older, then we wouldn't have to wait so long? And wouldn't it be nice to live together in the kind of world where we'd belong? You know it's gonna make it that much better, but we can say goodnight and stay together. Wouldn't it be nice if we could wake up in the morning when the day is new, and after having spent the day together, hold each other close the whole night through? Some happy times together we've been spending. I wish that every kiss was never ending. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Maybe if we think and wish and hope and pray it might come true. Baby, then there wouldn't be a single thing we couldn't do. We could be married, and then we'd be happy. Wouldn't it be nice? You know, it seems the more we talk about it, it only makes it worse to live without it. But let's talk about it. Wouldn't it be nice? Run, run with you. Run, run with you.
Nice. Can't go wrong with that one.
Oh man, what a great tune. Dude, that whole album is so good.
I know. That's one we've yet to do yet. We've been scared, but.
All right, Matt, what's next on Pet Sounds after that?
Well, actually, it's I had to prove that I could make it alone.
That's not number two. Number two
That's
is.
not me. No, I'm saying number three is. That's
Number
not
three
me.
is that. I had to prove that.
Yeah, that's what I just sang,
Make
yeah.
it alone now, but that's not me. All right, so what's number four?
Come
Come on, Matt.
I can hear so much in
Oh,
your I think so.
It's
another
I
crazy
used to
one.
know that one. Dang it. I can hear. Put your head on my shoulder. Okay, what's after that one?
Oh man, I don't know. It's
Let's
I
get.
think
Is
it's,
it Let's Go Away for a While?
It's either that or it's I'm waiting for the day. It's
Oh.
it's one of the worst. That's my favorite on Pet Sounds actually.
You didn't think
Yeah.
that I could sit around and let it.
And speaking of backgrounds, they do the ba-doo ba-doo. That's another like 50.
Badoo-badoops. We got. Okay, dude. We need to make a T-shirt that
ditties.
says "Run, Run with You," Badoo-badoops, and what was the other one that Dr. J said?
She said dum dum ditty, right?
Dum dum did it. Yeah, or Badoom Dop did it. No, what's the what's the one?
Dop did it.
Dop did it.
Yeah.
Or
That's our
no,
next-
here's a T-shirt idea. Who did it? Question mark. Dop did it.
Dop did it. There you go.
Dop did it. I love it. I love it. This is fun, man.
It was great. It was a fun night.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, everybody, next week we're going to be back Tuesday night, and we're going to do the All Summer Long album. So finally, we'll get to do it. We're going to sing all of the songs. I'm going to hack my way through them terribly while we talk about them track by track. We'll rate them. It'll be really fun. So if you like the All Summer Long album, make sure you join us next Tuesday night. So
do your homework and listen to that album. Get your thoughts ready, because we want to hear from you all ultimately.
We do. We do. Matt, another thank you to Dr. Jadey for joining us.
Absolutely.
What a joy that was. We had a really good time. So everybody, have a great rest of your night. Thank you again for joining us. We love you all very much. We will work on the T-shirt. We are definitely going to work on the T-shirt. So
take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Thank you, brother.
Styles and wear, and the southern girls with the way they talk, they knock me out when I'm down there. The Midwest farmers' daughters, they all make you feel alright. And the northern girls with the way they kiss, they keep their boyfriends warm at night. Wish they all could be California. And the girls all get so tan. I dig a French bikini on my island dolls by a palm tree in the sand. I've been all around this great big world and I've seen all kinds of girls. Yeah, but I couldn't wait to get back to the States, back to the cutest girls in the world. Wish they all could be California girls. Wish they all could be California. Wish they all could be California. Wish they all could be California girls. Wish they all could be California. Wish they all could be California.